Hello, snuggly friend. Tonight's story is about a teddy bear, quiet and still during the day, but who, once the child falls asleep, wakes up inside their dreams. Tucked in beside a small child named Rosie was a teddy bear named Toby. He didn't talk, he didn't move, at least not while Rosie was awake. But the moment Rosie drifted off to sleep, Toby's stitched eyes twinkled and he woke up inside her dream. There, Toby was bigger than before, as soft as ever, and full of life. He waited for Rosie each night in the land of quiet stars, a calm, glowing world where trees whispered lullabies and paths were made of clouds. Together, they would ride on the backs of dream turtles, slide down rainbows that hummed with music, and drink warm cups of moonberry tea under glowing lanterns. Toby never rushed her. He always held her hand. And when her dream felt too full or fast, he'd gently say, "Let's slow down." Sometimes, Rosie would dream of being unsure or scared. That's when Toby became even softer, warmer, and braver, wrapping his fuzzy arms around her and making everything feel okay. He remembered every dream, even the ones Rosie forgot when she woke up. And as the sun began to rise and Rosie stirred in bed, Toby would quietly curl back up beside her, going still once more. Just a teddy, just a toy. But inside, he was smiling because he knew tonight we'll dream again. So tonight, when you hug your favorite toy, maybe they'll wake up inside your dreams too. And if they do, don't worry. They already know the way. Good night. Just
Hello, little listener. Tonight's story is about the moon, not just shining above us, but listening every night for its very favorite lullaby.
every night, the moon rose quietly into the sky. It didn't make a sound. It simply watched the world grow sleepy, windows dimming, stars blinking on, trees whispering to the wind. But there was something the moon loved more than anything: lullabies. Not loud ones, not fancy ones, just the soft hums that parents sang, the little tunes whispered into tiny ears, the melodies that floated gently up into the sky. The moon listened closely. It had favorites, of course, like the one a mother sang to her baby in a rocking chair by the window, or the soft hum of a father brushing back a child's hair as they closed their eyes. But one night, the moon heard something new. It came from a small village where a girl named Ilara sang quietly to her little brother. She didn't know all the words. Her voice was a bit wobbly, but it was real, warm, true. The moon leaned in closer, casting a soft glow through their window. The lullaby floated upward like a feather in the air. Close your eyes, the stars are near. Sleep will find you, have no fear. The moon sighed. It was the kind of song that felt like a blanket. From that night on, the moon returned to Ilara's window every evening, just in time for her lullaby. Sometimes the stars twinkled along with the rhythm. Sometimes the breeze slowed down to listen. Ilara never noticed. but her brother always fell asleep faster. And the moon, it glowed a little brighter each night, because even though it had heard lullabies for thousands of years, that one, simple and soft, became its very favorite. Tonight, if you sing softly, hum gently, or even whisper to the quiet, the moon might be listening. And it just might smile. Good night. Good evening, peaceful heart. Tonight's story is about a lamp. Not one you turn on with a switch, but one that glowed only when your mind and heart were quiet. In a quiet bedroom with soft blue walls and a window full of stars, there sat a small round lamp on a little table. It didn't have a button. It didn't hum or blink. But when the room was calm, the lamp would glow. The lamp's name was Lumi. It had lived there for many years, watching over the children who came and went. It didn't need batteries. It didn't need to be plugged in. It only needed peace. Lumi didn't glow during loud stories or fast games. It stayed dark during stomping feet or bouncy laughter. But when someone sat quietly, or took a deep breath, or whispered a bedtime wish, Lumi would shine. Not brightly, just enough to make the room feel soft and safe. One evening, a girl named Nora was feeling restless. She tossed and turned. She huffed and puffed. The room stayed dark. She looked at Lumi and said, "Why won't you light up tonight?" Lumi, of course, said nothing. But Nora remembered what her mother once told her. The lamp only glows when your heart slows. So Nora tried something different. She closed her eyes. She breathed in slowly. 1, 2, 3, and out. 1, 2, 3. She thought of quiet things. A floating leaf, a sleeping kitten, a cloud wrapped in a blanket. And just like that, softly, Lumi began to glow. It wasn't magic, it was calm. The soft light filled the room, hugging the shadows and kissing the ceiling. Nora smiled and whispered, "Thank you." She drifted into sleep with the gentle light beside her. From that night on, whenever she felt too wiggly or wild, she would sit still, close her eyes, and wait for Lumi's glow. Not as a reward, but as a reminder. Calm lives inside us, and sometimes it just needs the quiet to shine. So tonight, before sleep comes, try something soft, a deep breath, a quiet thought, a moment of stillness. Who knows? Maybe something inside you will start to glow too. Good night. Hello, quiet sailor. Tonight's story is about a tiny boat that didn't float on water, but waited patiently by your bed, ready to carry you across the seas of dreams. Every night, when the lights were turned off and the house became still, a little wooden boat sat quietly by the side of the bed. It was no bigger than a shoe, but it wasn't just a toy. It was the dream boat, made of gentle wood with the sail stitched from soft pillow thread. It waited, not for wind, not for waves, but for one thing only: for a child to close their eyes. You see, this boat didn't sail oceans, it sailed dreams. Each time a sleepy head sank into the pillow, the dream boat would gently rise, growing just big enough for a sleepy passenger to climb aboard without ever waking up. The boat always knew where to go. Some nights, it sailed through a sea of stars where whales swam slowly through stardust. Other nights, it followed a river of silver light that wound through floating islands made of clouds. It passed glowing jellyfish that whispered good night. It drifted near floating lanterns that hummed lullabies. It never rocked too much. It never lost its way. The dreamboat listened to the dreams and guided them gently, away from worries, away from noise, straight into the calm. And when the sun began to peek over the edge of morning, the boat would float silently back, shrinking, softening, curling back into the space beside the bed, waiting for the next night, the next dreamer, the next quiet journey. Tonight, as you lay still, listen for the soft creak of a tiny wooden sail. The dreamboat is ready. Close your eyes. Your journey awaits. Good night. Hi there, sleepy toes. Tonight's story is about a staircase made not of wood or stone, but of marshmallows. And it only appears when you are truly ready for bed. In a small, peaceful village where dreams floated like dandelion seeds, there was a legend whispered among children. When your body grows still and your eyes get heavy, a staircase made of marshmallows will appear just for you. No one had seen it during the day. It only appeared at night, and only for those who were ready to sleep. One such night, a little girl named Lenny yawned a very big yawn. She had brushed her teeth, put on her coziest pajamas, and cuddled up with her pillow. But before her eyes closed, she noticed something odd in the corner of her room. A soft step, then another, then more. Each one was fluffy, white, and slightly glowing. They stacked gently upward, reaching into the air like a soft, glowing ladder of clouds. Lenny slipped out of bed and gently placed one foot on the first step. It didn't squish too much, just enough to feel cozy. With every step she climbed, the world grew quieter. She heard whispers of lullabies in the air. She felt her body grow lighter. Not sleepy tired, just floaty. The marshmallow steps led her past a window where owls blinked slowly, past trees with closed eyes, past clouds that sighed. When she reached the very top, there wasn't a door, there wasn't a room, just a big soft bed waiting in the stars. Lenny climbed into it and sank deeper until she felt weightless. The stars above blinked kindly. The air hummed like a hug. A soft voice whispered, "You've climbed the marshmallow steps. Now, rest." Lenny smiled, closed her eyes, and drifted into the gentlest dream. And when morning came, she woke up in her own bed, warm, rested, and full of wonder. Maybe tonight, if you're very still and very ready, you'll see your first marshmallow step appear. Close your eyes now. They only come when you're ready. Good night. Joyful dreamer. Tonight's story is about a tiny cloud, not one full of rain, but one that floated around collecting the happiest sound in the world, giggles. Way up in the sky, between the fluffy white clouds and the soft blue above, lived a small silvery puff named Pippa. Pippa wasn't a rain cloud. She didn't rumble or storm. She didn't make snow or thunder. She had one very special job. She collected giggles. You see, when children laughed, really laughed, the kind that made their bellies shake and their eyes squint, those little giggles would float up into the air like bubbles. Most of them vanished into the sky, but some were caught by Pippa. She floated from town to town, village to village, playground to playground, listening carefully. When a baby squealed with delight, Pippa caught it. When a toddler laughed at a silly face, Pippa held it close. When two siblings burst out laughing after a tickle fight, Pippa nearly burst with joy. She didn't store them in a jar or a box. No, Pippa kept them in her fluff. That's why she sparkled just a little more than the other clouds, and why, when she floated by, people felt a sudden urge to smile, even if they didn't know why. But Pippa had a secret. At night, after collecting giggles all day, she would drift slowly over sleepy towns and let the giggles go very softly, very gently. They didn't sound loud anymore. At night, they became tiny puffs of joy in dreams. A giggle might become a floating balloon in a toddler's sleep, or a silly dancing animal in someone else's dream. Sometimes it just made dreamers smile in their sleep without knowing why. One evening, a boy named Sammy whispered to his mom, "I dreamed that a cloud was tickling me." And she smiled, not knowing that Pippa had been nearby. And so, each night, Pippa rained laughter into dreams. Not too much, just enough to remind every sleepy child that the world was still full of happy things. So, tonight, if you smile in your sleep or giggle just a little as you dream, it might be Pippa, the cloud, gently letting a giggle fall your way. Good night. Hello, little one. Tonight's story is about a single yawn, so gentle, so quiet, that it floated through the sky and helped the whole world fall asleep. In a quiet cottage near the edge of a sleepy forest, a girl named Mila let out a long, slow yawn. She had brushed her teeth, hugged her favorite stuffed bear, and climbed under her blanket. Then, with her eyes half closed, she yawned. So the softest, sleepiest yawn you've ever heard. But this was no ordinary yawn. This yawn was made of calm. It was light as a feather and warm as cocoa. It slipped out of Mila's mouth and drifted up and out through the window into the starry sky. The yawn floated gently, like a bubble made of dreams. First, it passed a barn where baby animals were rustling in the hay. As the yawn floated by, the lambs and calves blinked slowly and lay down to sleep. Then the yawn passed over a playground where the wind was still swinging one lonely swing. The swing slowed, then stopped. The whole park took a breath. The yawn kept going. It floated across cities and rooftops, over forests and fields. Wherever it went, lights dimmed, voices softened, and sleepy eyes blinked just one last time before closing. Far away, in a treehouse on a mountain, a boy looked up at the sky. He felt the yawn pass over him, like a warm breeze that whispered, "Shh." He yawned back, then snuggled into his sleeping bag and drifted off. Even the moon, watching from above, blinked a little slower. The stars twinkled gently, like they were sighing with relief. The yawn traveled all night, touching every corner of the world. And when it finally floated back to Mila's window, it curled into a small invisible loop and wrapped around her head like a lullaby scarf. She smiled in her sleep, never knowing that her tiny yawn had tucked the whole world in. So tonight, if you feel a yawn coming on, don't hold it back. Let it float. You never know who it might help sleep next. Good night. Hello, little one. Tonight's story is about a cradle. Not pushed by hands or moved by feet, but gently rocked by the soft night wind. Just enough to carry a child into the deepest, sweetest dreams. In a cottage at the edge of a meadow, where the flowers whispered and the stars blinked low, stood an old wooden cradle by a window. It was simple. No wheels, no buttons, no sound, just curved wood, worn smooth from years of love. The cradle belonged to baby Eli. Each evening, when the sky turned purple and the crickets began their quiet songs, his mother would lay him inside with a soft blanket and a kiss. And then she would open the window. That's when the wind would come. Not a strong wind, not a cold wind, a cradle wind, gentle, warm, and just curious enough to play. It would slip through the window like a sigh, curl beneath the cradle, and begin to rock. Back and forth, back and forth. It made no noise. It didn't hurry. But with every soft push, baby Eli's eyelids would grow heavier. Sometimes the wind carried smells from the meadow: lavender, mint, and soft grass. Other times it whispered stories, not with words, but with rhythm. Stories of floating leaves, sleepy bees, and stars who hummed lullabies. Eli never cried in that cradle, not when the wind was there. And when his breath grew deep, the cradle rocked slower, slower, until it stopped. The wind would lift gently, slip back through the window, and leave the room still and sweet with peace. Each night the same, and every time the dreams came softer, deeper, longer. Tonight, if your window is open and the curtains move just a little, maybe the wind is saying, "It's time to rest, little one. I'll rock you into sleep. Good night."